Good morning. Welcome to the Matchbook Betting Exchange Greyhound Racing podcast. Of course, we'll get to that stage. The latter stages of the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby. We're down to the final six Irish, six English, and it's a wonderful, wonderful competition to this point, and I'm sure won't get any better from here. I'm joined, as always, by the master, Paul Lawrence. PL, it's been a great English Derby, and as I said last week, it's really coming to a boil. We have 12 remaining. Not too many you could completely dismiss, although we do have a very warm favourite at the head of the market, Swords Rex.
Yeah, it's been a great competition, to be fair. And I think Swords Rex has actually lit the competition up because I mentioned, I think, last week, maybe even before that, I know you backed him anti-post, but he just looks a real top-class Derby contender, and he hasn't really put a foot wrong so far. So it's not just about, obviously, one dog. There have been some real good supporting roles as well. And I think Romeo Command has taken my eye, certainly in the last two rounds. So it's all coming to the board. Obviously, we lost Ballymac Marino, which was a little bit disappointing. But Liam still has my anti-post pick, Ballymac Finn, still in the competition, although we're still waiting for him to light up the Derby.
He's clinging on by his fingernails at present, really, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a moment. Let's talk through them. We might as well do them in price order, working our way down. We'll start with the aforementioned Swords Rex. As you said, PL, he's just looking so professional. It's not that he's absolutely rocketing from traps. He's coming away fast, don't get me wrong, but it is that immediate sort of 10, 15 yards of acceleration that just gets him going. He's racing clear of good dogs into the opening corner. He's out in 5 the next night, but I wouldn't be too concerned. I think he's every day of the week a trap 4 runner anyway, so trap 5 shouldn't be too much of a hindrance. But the fact that he's Romeo Command on his inside, he will just need to be on his toes, but everything just looks so routine from at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, Swords Rex, I said last week, I think he's one of those dogs that looks like he could win from any box. I think you said they'd rather have trap 3. That sort of box would be ideal for him, as it proved last round. But I don't think in the makeup of this race it's too sad. Maybe the one little negative could be Ninja Kerry, because Ninja Kerry will probably just steer in a little bit, but then I guess Swords Rex will a little bit himself anyway. But you're right, it's that electric early dash. The likes of Romeo Top Gun, Savannah Bow and Jack Bella in there shouldn't really worry him too much. But as a greyhound, he has got that nice turn of early to get to the front. And you wouldn't say he's wanting in the closing stages. I think 500 is as far as he probably wants to go, Ian, but it's that electric early dash that's really that potent weapon that I think a lot of greyhounds can't live with.
He's 5 nights in a row gone under 29 seconds, and when you're doing under 29 seconds around Toaster, you're not going to be picked up.
No, very, very, very rarely. No, he just hasn't put a foot wrong. That's the thing. As you say, it's not the fact that he just goes wallop all the time. He's just breaking reasonably well, and it's just that devastating turn of pace from boxes into the first turn that's serving him so well.
Yeah, if we'll move on to Romeo Command. If I had offered the connections of Romeo Command, any one dog they want to avoid is probably Swords Rex in the semi-finals. But I think it's been a very kind draw for him. In the end, it could work out lovely, because in reality, he should be leading up the top 3 with considerable ease. Like he is, like, don't get me wrong, there is a potential that he could take a flyer and lead into the corner, but it looks almost odds on that he'll be second on the opening bend.
Yeah, and I think he's another greyhound, Ian, as well, that kind of wants to be drawn just off the fence. We saw when he did that devastating run from box 2 a couple of rounds back, he moved off from that draw. I did say to you last week, I didn't think I'd be afeared with him being in 5, and that proved to be the case. So I don't think 4 you could say is actually an ideal box for him.
So 5 actually worked out from last week, PL, because the 2 slow starters in 1 and 2 pinged out straight right, and the Boyle Sports gift dog was the meat and the sandwich. Romeo Command got a lovely run into the corner. It looks like he took a flyer and he didn't really. He just didn't have to. He just broke reasonably well and showed good early speed to lead into the corner, but it was all fairly much straightforward for him.
Yeah. No, I mean, and again, you speak about the top 2 in the market. You got Graham Holland won the race last year, and you got Patrick Janssens won it the year before. So it's that they are getting their dogs to perform at the top of their game, and I'd actually say that Romeo Command is actually improving. So that's a bit scary, but those two greyhounds probably warrant being at the top of the market, and they look as though they're the most likely qualifiers in their semi-final as well. So.
Yeah, it could be a battle then for third. We'll get to the heats in a little while. Just looking at the top four in the market there. At one point, they were all kennel companions. Romeo Command obviously started at Graham Holland. So, it just goes to show the strength that he has at his disposal. Moving on, Gaytime Nemo's third in there at 8.8. Yeah, close to 8-1. He ran very well last week. It was clearly his best run of the Derby. Although I was very impressed the night he ran behind Fate Point Susie, but just did everything right last week. Back to trap one, I suppose is probably the one issue of concern. He has run better off the fence than he has when on the fence, but if he can find his trapping boots from that inside draw, that's probably where you want to be.
Yeah, I was saying,
a chance I suppose if you were to pick trap one for him, it would probably be in the semi-final rather than the final.
Yeah, I was saying to Lorraine,
Go ahead.
I don't really think this dog necessarily wants to be in trap one. And I think he's made mistakes when he's been running from trap one before. But the thing is he's got undoubted ability, and it's one of those as well, Ian. When he breaks well, and there's not too many dogs around him, I think he's a better operator when there aren't dogs around him. And the fact that he was drawn trap 5, I actually didn't think it was a great draw for him. But when he broke and he showed the early pace, he was quite devastating. And again, the time was very, very good, and that shows you his ability. It's now can he do that sort of running from box one? The reason he's there at 8.8 in the market is because of that last run. Really, we know he's got ability, and he showed the ability. It's just the way he's operated has been he's made mistakes. Put it that way, and you can't afford to make mistakes at this stage of the Derby. And the makeup of this race, he will need to get a very, very good start to get himself into the contest without getting too much kind of opposition going into the turn. So I think, he's priced up on that last run, and he's definitely got speed, and that was for all to see last week.
Yeah, Gaytime Nemo, a dog in good form. We want to mention a bit of after time. We did mention it last week that Brinkley's Magic was in trap 4 last week. Just mentioned about the ease. Again, those are the little things. You got to keep them in your mind. Those little things, because it was notable how much he eased into that opening corner. And as a result, Gaytime Nemo was going to go around in front anyway, but it just made his task somewhat easier.
Yeah, no, that was right. No, he actually, in a way, he gave Time Nemo the lead, Brinkley's Magic. You're right. I went back and watched it after you said, and he definitely did the jinking. And that's because he's not concentrating properly. Sometimes he's not just chasing it hard. He's just doing what he wants to do and taking his eye off the ball. And that was really disappointing, because he was actually matching Gaytime Nemo into the turn, and then, as you say, he probably just shirked the issue and let Gaytime Nemo lead. And this is what I'm saying about if you got raw pace, that's why Gaytime Nemo is the price that he is in comparison to his kennel mate Swords Rex, because I just think Swords Rex has got the better raw ability, if you like.
Yeah, the ease on the corner is one where I often put it down to a legacy issue. Something happened on that corner at some point, because obviously a dog with him probably just lacks that yard of early. He found trouble some night, and it's just playing on his mind. And I always worry when I see ease on the card, because you never know when it's going to come back into them. They can get 2 solos and boom, be fine. But then the one night they have a challenger on the inside and the outside, and bang, the brakes go on.
That's it.
And you can recover from being balked or from hampered, from bumped. But when you ease, you're amazed how much ground they actually do lose.
And the momentum,
trying to get up their speed again.
Yeah.
Moving on, Clona Duke, 9.2. I'll be honest, PL, I saw the draw and I went back through my portfolio, and I've decided that I think I want Clona Duke on my side again. Just heard last week, spoke to the owner, actually, Kevin O'Brien, rather than Graham. And he said to me, that kennel sickness, he said, we think this fella had a touch of it. I thought he ran much brighter last week. Again, the issue is those first 2 strides, he's just not trapping consistently enough. I just think from the makeup, there's definitely a cloud over Ballymacfin, and Gaytime Nemo on the fence just doesn't seem to hit it from there. I took a chance that Clonagh might find his trapping boots this week, and I'd like to have him running for a nice few quid in the final, and that's why I went back in around the around the 9.2. That's where I was getting involved. I think that's perfectly fair about a dog who is the track record holder, and we know just how good he is. I'd nearly be ignoring his last 2 runs.
Well, you can't ignore his last run. I thought it was awesome. I thought he absolutely took off, Clonagh. He was incredible. As you say, he just walked out, but he wasn't devoid of early pace. He got himself through, a little bit of a tight situation going in the first turn. He tried to fly after Mystical Mario into the third turn, and he just climbed all over his back. And then he tried to come back for more on the run-in. So I thought it was a perfectly respectable run. He's definitely capable of winning a derby, there's no doubt. And as you say, if you're looking for value, I think I'd rather back Clonagh at 9.2 than I would Gaytime Nemo at 8.8. The only thing is, and we'll go into this in a minute, and looking at the semis, it's how they're going to get a run. But I just think you've probably got chances with the pair of them, really. But in my mind, I just think Clonagh is the faster dog of the pair.
Yeah, I tend to agree. We'll get into the semi-finals in a moment. Burj Khalifa in around the 12.5. That's testament to what he's produced in the last 2 weeks. This is a dog who obviously at 80, like in my money, he's about 86, 87 pounds. Like he tipped the scales at 40.1 kilos last week. He's more racehorse than greyhound, but he's running very well. And we've touched on this in the past, PL. When dogs love Toaster, they love Toaster, and this fellow just seems to be absolutely at home. If I had to pick 2 or 3 of the most likely qualifiers, I think he'd be in that list. I just love the makeup of his draw.
Yeah, and I backed him at 33 prior to the quarterfinals. Because of the fact that there weren't too many middles or wides left, and I just thought he'd keep getting his draw. And I actually think he's a dog that's improving. I think he is going forward. I think he's learning how to run Toaster really well, and obviously Brendan and Damien got him running really, really well. A pal of mine actually, he had the same opinion, or a couple of pals of mine actually have got the same opinion, that they backed him at 33s. And my pal actually. He actually, after the draw for these semi-finals, he was 20s and he went in again. So obviously now you're looking at a dog that's probably getting to somewhere near where his mark should be. But the fancy prices have gone. But the fact of the matter is, Ian, that this dog, should he qualify, and I think he will qualify, he'll be in the final with his perfect box trap 6. So you know where you stand with him. And I don't think there's too many negatives with him.
No, I tend to agree. Don't get me wrong. I think he's probably at a price where I think the juice is probably gone, in the sense where even if he does make the final, should Swords Rex progress, he's still going to be double figure odds in the final, no matter the draw in his favor or not. But he's certainly entitled to run well. I wouldn't mind to touch it 33 to 1. I can tell you that, PL. You snuck that little trumpet in there, didn't you? Ballymacfin, wow. If you told me before the competition, right, that coming to the semi-finals, Ballymacfin would be drawn in 3 and Burj Khalifa would be drawn in 6, and one would be 12 to 1 and one would be, close to 20 to 1, I would have had you committed. But this dog just simply isn't himself at present. People are saying he's not handling the track. Listen, I don't know whether he's not handling the track or not, but it just doesn't seem himself. There's no sign of the engine there. There's no sign of his early dash. There's no real sparkle from him. Now, Liam has spoken about the kennel sickness, but we're on 4 weeks where we're waiting for the sort of flashes of brilliance, and it just hasn't arrived. And if I was an anti-post backer, and I know you are one, I'd like to see some signs of life pretty early in this contest, because he's going to need to do things. He's going to need to do everything right.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to Liam. I think Carly interviewed him, and you could sense that he had been struggling with the sickness. And obviously the thing is, Ian, I suppose if it wasn't the Derby, then it's highly likely that Liam wouldn't be running him until he was fully clear of the sickness. And then when you're running and you're committed to going the Derby, it's probably quite apparent that you're not really going to be running to the best of your ability, and then it's taking even more out of you because you're trying to shake off the back end of the sickness. Now, you have to say it's testament to the quality of the dog that despite getting sickness, that he's still here. And you're right, Ian, it's quite amazing that he is that price, but that is only because it appears that he's just struggling to show his old form from the Irish Derby from last year. So how do you price him? That's the thing, is because you're pricing him on what you see, and you're not really seeing too much stamina for one, but too much sort of firepower in the early stages. He's just, as I say, he's a quality dog that's just keeping qualifying, and I mean, that, as I say, that is a testament to the class of the dog, and probably Liam's ability to get him as good as he can to compete. It must be frustrating for him.
PL, if you had been on a desert island for the last 6 months, 8 months, a year, and I dropped you in to just go purely on Derby form, he'd be considerably bigger than the 20s. He'd be closer to 100 to 1 on recent form for Derby success, even as he is in the final 12. But I suppose those that are holding on to a slip, and Liam himself are just praying that he can return to something like his very best, because it's like he was second in an Irish Derby decider, and at one point looked like he was probably going to win it off the last bend. So we know just how good he is, and we just hope that the dog gets a chance to show something like that towards the back end of the Derby. And who knows, it might be a greatly improved display, but he certainly doesn't represent a betting proposition for me at this point. Always next, just remarkable that he's still here in the Derby for the second year running, a finalist last year. He could easily make the final PL, but he's going to need a world of luck to win a Derby.
Yeah, no, he's been running with great credit, and fair play to Diane Henry for getting him right and getting him to progress. He is a very, very good competition dog. It's one of those as well, when I've looked at the semis, will he qualify, won't he qualify? But he'll give it a very, very good shot, because he never knows when he's beat, and he's one of those dogs that can keep qualifying. So he's a lovely dog to own. He's got class and he's got stamina, and yeah, he's a great competition dog. So for those people kind of wanting to throw a bit of a Hail Mary, you could do worse than 32.
Yeah, I would imagine the connections would have preferred him in the other heat, just given the makeup of the race. Whereas Romeo Command and Swords Rex look likely to be clear of the pack here. If he's trying to pick up a Romeo Top Gun or even a Jack Tavern Bella, that's not an easy task. And the same goes for Romeo Top Gun and Jack Tavern Bella. They would have liked to be in the other heat, which could fall apart in many ways. Not so much the other semi-final. Moving on, Mystical Mario, who's just been a revelation through this competition. Obviously, big debut at Limerick a while back, and was bought across the water. He's tipping the scales at 39 kilos last time. He's the second biggest dog left in the competition. But like 4 seconds dead and 4:01 in his last 2 outings. He's rocketing from traps. Like, this fellow is just so quick in those early yards, PL, that he's the most likely pace setter in that semi-final. And as a result, is 30 a bit of an insult to
him? I'm not sure, because he's a really difficult dog for me to. I think he could be a little bit of a quirky dog, really. He runs with his head in the air a little bit, but as you say, he's just timing the start so well, Ian, and he's not devoid of early either, obviously. So that's why he's doing those 4 deads in the 4:01. It's just a matter of, can he get clear? Will Ballymacfin trap a little bit better? Will he get contested into the turn? Will Gaytime Nemo be up there with him? It's a tricky one, but he's certainly running well, and he certainly keeps qualifying. So I think is a difficult dog to weigh up. But as you say, for a dog that you think might be able to front run, is 30s again a little bit of value? Possibly so.
Yeah. Possibly so. Jack Tavern Bella's next in at 34. Like, she basically, copy and paste what we said about Savannah Bow running so strongly, and it's a case of where she gets the run in that opening in that second semi-final. I think her chances of progressing to a Derby final depend on whether she can lead Savannah Bow into the opening corner. If she fails to do so, she's going to struggle. But she's in trap 3. Ping box might get dragged into the corner by the likes of Swords Rex and Romeo Command. It's not beyond the bounds of possibility that this lady, who I wouldn't have backed at 1,000,000 to 1 to win an English Derby, I wouldn't have backed her 100 to 1 to make an English Derby final, and yet I put her chances in around even money to make the final. Funnily enough, she has. It's like 33 is her price. Like, she could easily be 33 in the final. If she managed to get there, PL. But they're getting some spin out of her.
Yeah, they are, and. With a bit short of a 6-pen bitch as she is, you never know when you beat with it. As you say, she's probably very, very similar to Savannah Bow, although I fancy Savannah Bow's got that little bit more early than her. She actually, as she's gone from the trial stakes through the competition, you can actually see her early pace slowing down, if you like. So she's lacking. Obviously, she's probably running against better dogs as well, but you can see with your own 2 eyes that she's actually lacking pace to the turn. So in that respect, if she does break, then she might get tangled up with some of the traffic. So she's probably better off just minding herself. But you'd never fancy that she'd probably come through and run a dog of Swords Rex or Romeo Command's quality either. But there is a scenario where she could get to the final. I just find it hard, the same as you, to see how she actually wins the Derby. So that 34 doesn't really particularly tempt me in any way.
Well, as you say, even if she gets the dream draw in the final, she gets there, it's still going to be 2025. You know what I mean? So you'll have plenty of opportunity to bet her if you don't back her this week. We go on to Romeo Top Gun, Cochise and Ninja Kerry. Romeo Top Gun, big run behind Swords Rex last week. He's only beaten 3.5 lengths. He posts an estimated 29.07. Obviously, he's an older half brother to Romeo Command, and he's very much in the shadow of his half brother, but running well. And Patrick has got big prize runners to the final before.
This dog, you're right. This dog is absolutely flying, and you're right. If you look at the cold light of day, getting beat just over 3 lengths of Swords Rex, that's a good run. And he keeps getting fair draws. He did last time. He has again on Saturday. And I think he's got a massive chance of qualifying for the final, I've got to tell you. So I think I'd rather take out of those 3 dogs that we just spoken about that are drawn in the same heat. I think I would rather go with Romeo Top Gun, because if he did get drawn trap 1 in the final after qualifying on Saturday, then anything can happen. So out of the fancy prices, if you like, I think I'd rather side with Top Gun than Savannah Bow or Jack Tavern-Bella.
That's fair enough. He has the draw as well, of course. He raced so well last time out from trap 1 that you have to consider his claims. And of course, he won his opening round assignment from the same box as well. So the red jacket is certainly not a hindrance to him. Cochise was running so well in the early rounds, just been found out a little bit in the last 2 starts, and obviously he doesn't have the same level of early speed, but he is in a semi-final where, as I said a little bit earlier on, it just could fall apart a little bit. I certainly wouldn't rule him out of the final. He's third to Mystical Mario last week. If Mystical Mario happened to miss the kick and didn't lead, he's very unlikely to qualify, and then all of a sudden you have Ballymacfin, who's struggling at present, and Gaytime Nemo Clonadue could come together. Just not impossible that this fellow makes the final.
It's not impossible at all, and he's another one. He's just running so well. You never know when you beat with a dog. In the early rounds he was trapping well. He even led in his first round heat, and he's showing good all-round pace. He's just getting a little bit kind of tap for toe by the faster dogs now, and he's getting the little bump at the first turn. But the thing is, he's not giving up. He's never giving up, and he keeps qualifying. He's running on really strongly. So he's another one that you start if you're looking at value. 55. Would he actually be 55 if he got to the Derby final? I doubt. So he's getting in the realms of a little bit of a nibble at a fancy price. Wouldn't be the worst bet in the world.
Yeah, and we complete the lineup with Ninja Kerry around 140. Listen, he hasn't won anything. He hasn't won a round of the Derby yet. But am I right in saying this is a Grade One winner? Did he win one of the big competitions around Hove?
Yeah, he could have easily done. I mean, to be fair to Belinda Green, she's got dogs running really really well that you kind of think, oh, he's all right, he's okay, and I'm right in saying I think she might have won 3 Cat 1s now, Belinda. Ninja Kerry is performing at the top of his game. He's I always fancied actually, and he was a sort of a front running type, and yet he keeps sticking his head down and qualifying. As you say, he's not won a round yet, but he's certainly trying hard, and I think she was quoted as saying that as well. He is a trier. Again, he keeps getting his a draw kind of pitched out a little bit wider than he probably wants, and I think he probably wants the 4 box more than anything else. I think that's an ideal box for him. But whether he can clear Swords Rex and Romeo Command into the turn is a big question mark. And then he's got to fend off, 3 strong dogs. So that's probably why he is the price that he is, because he's got a tough couple of dogs to lead off. And I think that's going to be the key to him getting into the final.
Yeah, listen, whether he gets through or not, I don't think it'll be Belinda Green's last chance. She's very impressive when she talks about her dogs. I have to tell you, I'm quite impressed with her, and I have no doubt she'll have plenty of fast dogs in the future. She has a couple of very good owners there, and
Yes.
yeah, I think she's certainly one to keep an eye on going forward. Right, that's the 12 that are remaining. Let's look at these 2 heats, PL. Let's look at the opening heat, which again, as I said a couple of times, I think potentially could potentially fall apart a little bit. Now, that's there's a lot of what ifs in that, but if I had to put my nose on one, it will be Clona Duke. As I said, I thought he ran much better last week in defeat, and okay, you are taking it on sort of just hunch rather than anything else that he will break that little bit better this week. If he does, I think he could find himself in a perfect position at the opening corner. A lot will depend on what Mystical Mario does at boxes. Can he repeat that 4 seconds or 4:01? That'll be interesting at this late stage in the Derby. If he does, he's probably going to go around in front. But I think Clona Duke showed enough last week to suggest that he can certainly overturn him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought Clona Duke took off, as I mentioned earlier on. Did you mention he might have had a touch of sickness, because he ran a little bit disappointing behind Brinkley's Magic, because we said that Brinkley's Magic ran away from him.
It hasn't been reported, PL.
No, but
it hasn't been reported. But Kevin O'Brien, the owner, actually said something to me on. Yeah, Kevin O'Brien said something to me on the phone the other day about it, and he sort of hinted that, let's just say, he wasn't himself the night he was beaten by Brinkley's Magic, and that would certainly tally. It was a very flat run from him that night. But again, more signs of improvement last week, and yeah, I think we'll see the real Clona Duke, shall we say. And as a result, we can see the heat betting there, 3.25. He's in around 9-4, 5-2, 3.5 but Gaytime Nemo, 7-2, Burj Khalifa, 4-1 Mystical Mario. Ballymacfin is 7-1. Wow, and Cochise at 14-1. It looks pretty open, and the betting would suggest that also.
Yeah, and it is a tough heat. I actually sided with Burj Khalifa here, Ian, because of the draw more than anything else. As I mentioned earlier on, Mystical Mario for me is coming across going into the turn, so I think it will give plenty of room for Burj Khalifa to operate. Obviously, you need a decent break to do that. I don't want a slow, sloppy break. I want him to come out running, and I'm pretty sure that he's good all-round pace. And again, I was talking to Lorraine, and she said this dog's staying really well. He's another one that kind of pocketed him as maybe an early pacer, but I think he's got early pace. I think he's actually got the lot. So that's why I think that the 33-1 was too big, and obviously my pals thought the 20s was too big. So the fact that he's got his draw, and he's going to keep getting his draw, with the purposes of this race in mind, I'd have him fairly close with Clona Duke. I'm just struggling to see where Clona Duke turns, and a lot of that is really going to be on what Gaytime Nemo does. So I'm just worried. I think the scenario is that if Mystical Mario comes out and he starts to squeeze the inside dogs going into the turn, I think Gaytime Nemo's reaction is to jump over the back of him. And he could all of a sudden then be skittling the likes of Clona Duke and Ballymacfin and even Cochise for that matter. And I just felt that the safest place to be was drawn wide. And that's where Burj Khalifa is. And that's the way I saw the race.
Is the 4.5 big enough for you? It sounds like it is.
Yeah, well, he's a little bit bigger than that in place. And I noticed he has been nibbled at as well with a couple of firms. I've not actually played because do you know why? I was going to wait and listen to see what you said.
Yeah, no, I as I said to you, he's definitely up there in my list of one of the dogs that will definitely qualify. And if it wasn't for Clona Duke in the race, which is he really is the fly in the ointment, like he is the track record holder. And it's just I know how brilliant he is, and he's a dog that I've had a close and loving relationship with over the last 8 or 9 months. So I can't really go against him. But I think Burj Khalifa is a big player, and I think the two of them should be taking up more of the market than they are. I wouldn't be backing Mystical Mario at 4-1. Likewise, Cochise, I think, should be bigger nearly than the 14-1. I can't have Ballymacfin and Gaytime Nemo. You're betting on two things. You're betting on that he starts, and even if he starts, you're betting on that he's still good enough to hold the likes of Clona Duke and Burj Khalifa. So I think there's no real juice in his price. I would have Clona Duke favourite with Burj Khalifa, clear second favourite, shorter than he is, and bigger prices the remaining quartet. Of course, being a betting exchange, lots will change in that market, especially in the last 2-3 minutes before the contest. So make sure you tune in just before the race and get the best of value. But if something there catches the eye, or you think Burj Khalifa is going to be shorter than 4-5, well, I wouldn't put you off taking it. PL, if I had to force you to pick the winner, Burj Khalifa.
Yeah, I think so. That was my play, was Burj Khalifa and Clona Duke. And you know as well, it's not really going to be that impossible for Clona Duke to come out running, is it? That's the thing. We saw it in the early round out of 1, which we said wasn't his ideal box. And in the next round, you said you exclaimed 4.41. You couldn't believe it was so slow. And then he's got a 4.14 and a 4.20 last time. As I say, he walked out last time and he actually did go to the turn. If he got any kind of start there, he could easily turn second or third dog, couldn't he? Or he could even lead, do you think?
Could easily, yeah.
Do you think he could lead?
I think he produces his best run, he leads. I think Mystical Mario is a really nice dog, so professional at traps, but you're into serious stuff now. Like, you're into the real sort of heat at the end of the Derby. And like Clona Duke isn't too far behind him at the opening corner last week. So
that's what I'm saying.
Without a start,
dog for dog, Ian, Clona Duke and Mystical Mario, and what you saw last week, you'd want to back Clona Duke every day of the week against him, wouldn't you? Let's be fair.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to go with Clona Duke. On to the second semi-final, and no surprise that I think Swords Rex will ping out, make every inch of the running. I think Romeo Command looks certain to turn third. It's going to be a battle for third spot. I'll go with Jack Tavern Bella. But PL, is it a race that sort of just writes its own script?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting Swords Rex to lead. You just don't want him to miss it that sort of length or so, and Romeo Command go wallop, and then him having to try to get round him. You'd rather they'd sort of break level, and I think you'd probably agree that Swords Rex will probably then lead him, and then Romeo Command's going to turn behind him. I do think that Swords Rex is, as I said to you, that is as far as he wants to go, because I was just that little bit worried when Romeo Top Gun was kind of eating into it late, but he was never going to get anywhere near him. But it's just that the fact that he was just getting closed on, if you like. But you're probably right in that Swords Rex, if he leads, I don't think Romeo Command will pick him up. He'll close. He'll get much closer than obviously 3 lengths or 3 1/4 lengths. But I actually do think that Romeo Top Gun can break and hold Savannah Bow and Jack Tavern Bella, and that's how I think it will finish 5-4-1.
By 4-1. 1.62 at the moment, Swords Rex. Yeah, that could go either way. Obviously Romeo Command's a very popular greyhound, and just wouldn't be surprised in a race of this nature where it's either or for many people that they go for the bigger price runner. And that's perfectly understandable because he's an extremely talented greyhound, absolutely the height of his powers. So it would be no surprise to me if, let's say, Swords Rex ended up at 1.8 and Romeo Command ended up at 2.9. That's sort of an idea. I think you will be able to get 14, 16 to 1 bar the two, and I think it's hard to disagree with that. PL, of the two, obviously the opening, he's more sort of generous pricing, shall we say. Is that where your best bet is, Burj Khalifa?
Yeah. It's my best play because I won't be leaving Clone Duke unbacked, and so that is I think that is my value play, if you like, because you're right with Swords Rex. If Romeo Command does get any kind of break and puts pressure on him, then all of a sudden he's not a 1.6 anymore, because you've got a talented dog that's going to give him a race. As much as I want to see the pair of them get into the final, I hope that they don't ruin each other by any means. But I just think there's no value in betting the pair of them. So, but there is value in betting Burj Khalifa and Clone Duke. So that is my value play. Yes, in Heat 1.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Clone Duke at the 9 to 4, 3.25. That suits me lovely. You've already mentioned Burj Khalifa. You're on the 33 to 1 prior to the quarterfinals. That was a good play. There's nothing else there in terms of the outright prices that you think could be worth a little nibble, or are we happy with our lot?
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm really going to get involved. Obviously, I've got Ballymac Finn, but I'm not too happy about that. But because I'm fairly confident that Clone Duke will get in the final, I would say I probably should make sure that I don't lose on my anti-post bets with Clone Duke, especially as the bugle will definitely come out from over that side of the water.
Yeah.
By the way, I have backed Swords Rex as well. By the way, I have, because I kept talking about it, and I've done that. So
I just want Swords Rex in the final. That'll do me. If he scrapes in third, I'll be happy. Okay. It's taken shape. There's a lot of action left in this Star Sports TSC English Greyhound Derby. My thanks once again to Paul Lawrence. 12 will become 6 on Saturday night at Toaster. Hopefully, again, it'll be another glorious evening in Northamptonshire, and great atmosphere. It'll set it up for a wonderful final on July 1st. I'll be there. I found out off air the PL will be there. Do you know what we'll be doing? Hopefully, at the end of the night, we'll be having a drink and blowing some trumpets. Listen, not each other's trumpet. We just blow our own trumpets, right? Don't want to get too deep into that at this moment in time. It's too early on a Wednesday morning. PL, thanks again, my man, and we'll see you in Toaster on July 1st. But before then, I'll see you next Wednesday, where we'll be talking about the final of the Derby. Now, that is something to look forward to. But that's it from us on this Wednesday morning. We'll see you next time. Best of luck with your selections in the semi-finals of the TRC English Greyhound Derby. Best bets, Burj Khalifa and Clone Duke. We're taking each other on,